Hey everybody, Janet Icorst here. Welcome to episode 19 of this podcast series. What are we going to talk about today? In episode 1, I had made a commitment to go for it, and I encouraged you to do the very same thing. And today, I want to commit to and encourage you to go for it. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my previous experience here in the last week. And why am I sharing my experience? This podcast is about empowerment. It's about you. It's about the way that you listen. And so as I share my experience, I want you to listen for you as you. The possibilities when we are present to ourselves in that way, we can have awakenings, we can have activations, we can have realizations, we can shift in such profound ways that everything changes for us. And that's the kind of go for it, I do end up being a cheerleader. That's one of my roles here. And that's what I want to encourage you to do. Okay, so me being with you today is a form of me going for it. And let me explain. This past week, I have done what I would call internal work, deep diving, inventorying, looking at behaviors or things that are happening in my life that I'm not happy with. And so I made a decision to look into these behaviors, these patterns, this conditioning that I'm not happy with. And it is all about what we can call separation. There's a distance that I feel between me and my source. There's a distance that I feel between me and my relationship with my beloved dog, Gracie. There's a distance, a gap that I feel in my relationships with other people. There's a hesitancy for me to create content that I know will shift reality in profound ways. And I hesitate to do it. I have great ideas. And I know that the energetics that I provide people shift stuff, right? In a very lighthearted way, no matter how deep we go. And I don't want anything to be in the way of that. So I found and discovered and asked for support for me to go into this patterning. Now, I experience life very dimensionally. That means universal, galactically, cosmically, multi-universally. And I also experience life very much from a human perspective. And so this particular deep dive, I wanted to connect the dots between these behaviors and what sort of conditioning I had as a child. And basically it's any experience or any interaction, any type of relationship I've had from the time I was born and slightly before that and to now, right? And that oftentimes for me will include sort of dimensional, some dimensional capacities or dimensional, what's the word I want? I can feel how some of that stuff, what has happened to me as a child was created in a different form for myself. I'll say it that way. So what happened was, as I was going into this process of doing writing, and it's interesting because as I was going through this, none of what I really discovered was new. And when I took the time to write it down and look at the repetitive nature of the pattern, I got more information. And so there were emotions that came up. It was, I got an opportunity to use that presence of that life force, God, infinite energy, to be present to what I was feeling. And I was a great stuffer of emotions at many different times in my life because I didn't know how to deal with them. And I can now. I literally thought my emotions would kill me if I felt them. So it was quite an experience, and I want to say very immersive. And so, as I felt all these feelings and as I had all these experiences in my body and noticed all these beliefs, that not true. I mean, anything to do with me not being worthy, me, just all forms of thinking and believing that I'm not good enough or that I can't. I mean, those things were very conditioned in my earlier years. So I got to look at all those, and I got to get down to the core of a lot of that patterning in terms of how it got conditioned into my body. So it's immersive, it's a deep dive, it's intense, like super intense. And so I spent several days this week, like just being with it and meditating and doing what I know how to do to use the skill sets I have to transform, to alchemize, to change states, to allow these patterns to be shifted so that I have more full access to me. That's the whole point. And trust me, I wouldn't be doing any of this stuff if the payoffs weren't huge. So in that process of going into that, I how do I want to say it? I it was immersive. So I wasn't in my world. I wasn't feeling like I was on my game because I was present to all this conditioning. And so to show up today with you felt like a go for it moment. Because when I come back into more of what the now is, and that's not saying I wasn't in the now when I was processing this, because that's how this stuff gets transformed. And when I'm feeling those emotions, a lot of those emotions can be blasts from the past. So it's sort of like I kind of came back into my life and I'm not who I was. And so being with you in this way was like I had to get kind of my big girl pants on and remember how important this is for me to be here in this way to bring more light in the world, to assist people on their empowerment journeys, to help you specifically remember who you are in your grandness, in your wholeness, which is always available. And when I went into that process, I'm not directly connected to that because I'm present to whatever's being alchemized. So all those feelings of being small, not being capable, all those came up. And so here I am today, a different version of myself with you. So for you personally, how can you be present to what is and those things that you don't like? How can you, as a grand creator being shift. Sometimes things are so simple. Sometimes that shift can happen instantaneously. And sometimes when we go into these deep dives, it takes what it takes for the shift to happen. And I know I've talked about spiritual bypass. I know I've talked about avoidance. I know I've talked about these patterns for a long time, and I probably will, because one of my gifts here and one of my skill sets is to help people move beyond who they have been so they can access who they really are in the grand scheme of things to live the life that they want to live. And I ended up taking somebody down to the airport in Phoenix yesterday, and I hadn't been in Phoenix for some time. And it was a big reality check because I know I'm more here. So my sensitivity and my presence, both of those have increased. And so I felt more static, right? I felt more interference. And I also think that those people on the planet that, for whatever reason, want to continue to keep the level of control that they have over our society, right? They make rules that benefit certain groups of people. And I am not political at all. What I'm saying is that there is deliberate interference for you to buy stuff, for you to be a consumer, for you to act in certain ways, so that people that have benefited from that can continue doing what they're doing. And I don't want anybody to be in denial of that. And that happens in small levels, and that happens in big levels, micro, macro. And that's one of the things that I got an opportunity to look at and be with, how I'm still acting as if I'm not a grand creator being. And I don't want to do that anymore. And I don't want you to do that anymore either. So right now, let's play a little bit. So let's breathe together. Put one hand on your heart and one hand on your belly if that feels good to you. And breathe. And I would love for you to invite your body into this now. And think of a moment where you felt like you were in your prime, doing something that was so important to you and that was maybe hard, stretched you. I got so much mileage out of this moment. And this came through when I was going through this intense process. And I was trying to find that, well, we could call it fire horse, right? We're in the year of the fire horse. I was trying to find that fire, that inner power, that inner strength that has no bounds to assist me in finding that movement where I could participate in this world in a way that I wanted, right? In creational sense. And it was this moment where I did a lot of rehabbing work. And there's a house in Prescott that we kind of saved because it was in terrible shape and I didn't know how bad a shape it was in at the time. And I was so determined. There was an upstairs and a downstairs. And those stairs, that pathway going from one level to another was messed up. there was a spiral staircase, and the step up was so small on that staircase. When you stepped up, you ended up like putting your face in the stairs because the rhythm was off with how legs are used to stepping. And so I discovered and had to come up with a way to remodel this house so that it was usable and effective in getting from one level to another. And so I had somebody come up and draw a scaled plan so I could look at it and study it and come up with a solution. And this was very creative. And I remember I just had that determination, right? So think about this for yourself. What are you determined to do or experience now that's important to you? It was really important to me. We had a lot invested into this property, into restoring it, so it could be an awesome house, right? There were financial resources, there were time we had into this. A friend of ours, a business partner, had loaned us money, right? And I was just dedicated to it. So I would sit there and I would draw and I would think about it and I would be with it, not in that mind forces sort of way, but allowing it to present to me. Right? So it was like I would draw, I'd be like, that's not it. I'd go to bed. I was like, I know I'm going to just do this. And I was so committed to it. Now, you might not relate to this example at all. And I know that you have something in your life that's similar to this, where you used all that you had to do something, to accomplish something. And that helped restore that level of passion, that level of fire, and helped me remember that difficult things can be accomplished, challenges can be resolved, and I have it within me to do that. And that's what that go for it energy is. It's utilizing that fire, that essence of who you really are in your brilliance, in productive, useful, life transformational ways. I know you have that in you. And I know that every time you use that life force energy in that way, it changes everything. It has a ripple effect. It's beautiful. So that's how I use that. And I use that also just, it's like, what do I want to do? And I love construction. I love creating. And when I create, I have this engineering architectural viewpoint. And I know when I do that here on Earth, I'm doing that in greater ways. And the effects that has, sometimes I'm really aware of it. I was doing this remodel one time. It wasn't really a remodel. It was my ex had wanted a TV in the living room. And so I went up in the attic and I was drawing wire down the walls to power this TV. And I could feel how I was working with power in that moment and finding ways to get power where it needed to be. I could feel the effect that was having on all that is. And mind you, I'm up here cramped in the attic. I can barely move. It's really hot out there. And I was trying to figure out how to run this, and I did it. And man, when I got that done, it was really quite a creation because I put one of those recessed boxes in, right? And it was just perfect for the wires and all that. and it was good. So for you, how do you use that fire in a way that means something to you personally? Because if it matters to you, those heart centered impulses make a difference in all of creation. So I want to encourage you to go for it in whatever way makes sense for you in this moment. Could be small, could be big. And we've hit 20 minutes. So much love, so many blessings. Thank you for watching, for listening, and please share this with anybody that you think might benefit from it. Thank you. Much love. Bye for now.